Hey guys, this is how Nintendo created the PlayStation. On accident, I guess. Back in the late 80s, Nintendo realized that the 3D era of gaming was on the horizon, and their still in development Super Nintendo wasn't powerful enough to handle it. At the time, Sony didn't see the value in video games, but a Sony researcher, Ken Kutaragi, became very interested when he saw his daughter playing a Nintendo. This interest resulted in him secretly developing the sound chip for the Super Nintendo without letting his bosses at Sony know. Oops. Maybe let your boss know before you make a thing for a Nintendo product. I guess to be fair, it was still a Sony product, but yeah. Obviously, the executives at Sony weren't too thrilled about this. However, the CEO at the time, Noria Oga, supported not only Kutaragi, but importantly allowed him to continue working on the project. This made Sony the perfect partner when Nintendo started looking into a revolutionary new technology, the cd-rom. In 1988, Sony and Nintendo signed a contract for Sony to develop a CD drive for the Super Nintendo. Where things got a little nefarious is that Sony was listed as the sole worldwide licensor to create their own consoles that ran Nintendo's games, meaning that Sony would make most of the profit from this venture. Nintendo started to realize just how much control they were giving up over their own console, so at the 11th hour, they switched sides to Sony's main rival Philips to develop their own CD-ROM attachment. Sony found out about this, so to publicly shame Nintendo, they announced their own Super Nintendo with a CD-ROM drive called the PlayStation at CES 1991. And to be clear, it's not PlayStation, it's Play Space Station. The next day, Nintendo clapped back and announced their own partnership with Philips, instantly killing the PlayStation. I don't know how else to say it. It's not the PlayStation, it's the PlayStation. The PlayStation. The PlayStation. The PlayStation. I don't know how long of a pause to leave. It's weird.
It reminds me of when I played the first Microsoft console, the Xbox.
While Nintendo ultimately gave up on the idea of a CD-ROM, both Sony and Philips were far enough along that they actually ended up developing their own proper competitors to the Super Nintendo. What a great move! You start out by trying to make a new add-on for your Super Nintendo, and instead create two giant competitors. Philips created the ill-fated CDI system, which did feature some licensed Nintendo games, such as The Legend of Zelda, if you remember this awful, terrible monstrosity. On the other hand, Sony took the split personally, and their CEO appointed Kutaragi to continue development on the PlayStation, this time without a space. After witnessing the success of Sega's Virtua Fighter in Japanese arcades, Sony opted to go with 3D polygon graphics over the much more old-school style 2D sprites. With the prototypes built and dozens of developers signed up to make games for the brand new PlayStation, now was the time to release it. In December of 1994, Sony released the PlayStation in Japan with a price roughly equivalent to about $400, and it was an immediate hit. To put things in context, Sony sold 300,000 PlayStations in the first 30 days. Their biggest competitor at the time, Sega, sold only about half as many Saturns. That little gaming business that Sony didn't think was worth pursuing is now one of the largest parts of the company. Meanwhile, Nintendo thankfully makes much better decisions these days. Well, except for the Wii U.